Hey peeps, how's it going? I can't remember if it's been a long time since I made my last video, maybe a month or so, but I'm compelled to make one because Depeche Mode have a new album out, and I've never really reviewed a new album like this. I've listened to it a few times, and I thought, why not make a video? And you know, I've seen a lot of reviews, read a lot of reviews, and watched a lot of YouTube videos concerning this album. I mean, Depeche Mode, obviously, we all love Depeche Mode, and they don't put out albums very often. I think it's been, what, 7 years since Spirit came out. So I've seen some opinions on this album, and I was compelled to make my own video revolving around my opinion of this album. And I know I always preface my videos with a rant, but my rant is actually part of my review. So I have a lot of things to say about not just the album, but the reviews I'm reading. I know I have an opinion about everything. What can I say? I just do. But yeah, it's Depeche Mode, and I feel very passionate about this band. And so, yeah, I hope you stick with me and check out my review here tonight. It's Wednesday evening. I think it's April 5th. I'm on spring break this week. Um, Decided to not go anywhere. I'm just hanging out and getting stoned and enjoying life as much as I can. Per usual, every time I get ready to make a video, I look at other YouTube videos to see what's out there, and per usual, my mind just boggles at the stupidity and idiocy of the videos I see and the shit people like to watch, and it just I don't get the world anymore. I just don't. I'm not even really that old, you know, and I still don't understand this. I think people of all ages who have a brain in their head have to feel this way. The shit that people are motivated by, and the things they like to talk about, and the things people like to watch. It's just like a very depressing world we live in. I don't know if it's a post-COVID world and people are desperate for information and desperate for any sort of opinion that's their own. It seems like people don't like to veer outside of their prism in terms of their opinion anymore. It seemed like people were more willing to listen to other opinions in the past, and now it's just not so much. People just like to, you know, people like to just watch other people have the same opinions as they do. And I don't get that. It's very boring to me. And that kind of feeds into my Depeche Mode video as well. But yeah, it's just a very weird, depressing world we live in right now, to me, in terms of intellectualism and just trying to learn new things and trying to listen to new music and new sounds even and just opening ourselves up to new art and new ideas. It seems like, at least in my lifetime, things have never been more linear, more narrow-minded. It's very weird. It's a very strange time that we live in right now. And I'm sure you intelligent people out there who watch this video know what I'm talking about. It's just a frustrating world to live in right now. And it doesn't make me negative to point this out. It just is what it is. I pay attention. Anyone who's sensitive enough to care and pay attention to the world they live in is going to notice these things. It's a very strange place to live, the world right now. So that's why we look forward to things like this, like new album releases, like Memento Mori. And I might as well just get into the review, right? And again, I'll rant about the things I want to rant about. Um, by the way, I hope you're all doing well. I don't know, it's been a while since I've talked to you last, so I hope everything is going well for you guys. And I hope all my regulars come back to watch this video. But this is the new Depeche Mode album, Memento Mori, and I'm gonna do like a unboxing too. It's more like an unwrapping, um, since as you see, this isn't really a box, but it is kind of a nice package. I pre-ordered this from Amazon. I don't know, a couple months ago. This is the Amazon exclusive. I think what makes the Amazon version exclusive is the color of the records. I think they're clear. I think. maybe red. I can't remember. I think they're clear, but I'm going to open it up right now. I've already heard the album. I subscribe to Apple Music, which, by the way, is awesome. I, as many of you know who watch this channel, I don't enjoy consumerism, and I certainly never want to heavily promote a company that, you know, has billions and billions of dollars in their stockpiles. But Apple Music is awesome, and I would recommend it to anybody who loves music. I mean, it is cool, man. They just raised their rates. It was $10 a month. I think it's $12 a month now. It's more than worth it though, man. I might pay $20 a month for Apple Music. It is cool. I mean, there's everything in there now. No matter how random the release is, no matter how small the record label is, I mean, everything is on there. I can't recommend this service highly enough. So anyway, this album's been out for a couple weeks, and I've listened to it 2 or 3 times, as much as I can listen to it. I probably will never listen to it again, but more on that in a minute. I'm going to unwrap this, do my first unboxing video, and of course it will probably take me 20 minutes to unwrap this thing. So lucky you guys, you get to sit there and watch me unwrap a record. Oh, here we go. Looks like it won't take anywhere as long as I thought. Now this record, there it is, the exciting unboxing. This album was $45, okay? $45 for a 2-record set. 3 sides of the 4 sides of vinyl have songs on them. The last side is etched, and I'll show that in a minute. But $45 for an album. Now you can decide whether or not that is a deal or not. I think it is a fucking ripoff. I'm a Depeche Mode fan, so I don't know. I mean, I'm at a state in my collecting of these guys where I can't have a hole in my collection. So I thought, well, I got to order the album. I've got every other damn thing they've ever done. But $45 for this, that's like 42 euros and 37 pounds or something. I mean, the euro and the dollar are pretty much the same right now, and the pound isn't far back. So those of you in Europe, you probably paid around the same amount that I did. 45 bones for this thing. That is a joke. Almost $50 for an album. Are those the times we're in? I just think it's a really pathetic cash grab from the record label and Depeche Mode. And I'll get into that in a minute, more about that as I review the album. But $45 is a joke, and it's hard to recommend that anybody pick this up. Obviously, Depeche Mode fans are going to pick this up, like me. You have to have it, and it does look like a nice package, but $45 worth of nice? I don't think so. Anyway, the D and the M are kind of, they call it foil embossed. Basically, it's just a foil stamp. These two are stamped on here. Kind of cool. It's a cool cover. I mean, I won't deny that. Cool back cover. This is what Memento Mori is to those of you who don't know. I think it just means like a reminder of death, a physical reminder, like a skull on a desk. Maybe this is Andy Fletcher's skull. Yeah, that's a really bad joke. I shouldn't say that. We'll get into Fletch later, right? Fletch is dead. He died a year ago. So that's part of what people love to talk about in reviews right now with this album, Andy Fletcher's death. Look, he's a friend of theirs and he's part of the band and we miss him, obviously. But Andy Fletcher never had a single thing to do with anything musical with this band. He never wrote a lyric or a note of music. And he kind of was the band's manager. He certainly didn't have anything to do with the music. So anyway, there's that little piece of info. Anyway, kind of a cool front and back cover. Then you open it up. Let me see. I'll try to open it so you guys can see this. It's a tri-fold, which is kind of cool. So it opens up, as you can see. Let me get the records out of here. I think it was on clear wax. Let me see here. Got the lyrics. That's cool. There you go. Clear vinyl. I guess that's the Amazon exclusive. You get the records on clear wax. Yeah. Um, yeah, you get the lyrics, little logo right there. Let me pull out record two. Get some credits. Oh, this was produced by James Ford. He's in the band Simeon Mobile Disco. Those of you who don't know, um, Simeon Mobile Disco is pretty cool. I think they're still a band. Um, just kind of like a modern techno house electronic thing. Nothing spectacular, but they're pretty good. I like them. Um, Here's side four. It's a laser etching. It's kind of hard to see. Um, Looks like angel wings. Let's see. What do we have here? It says something. What do we have here? Est very malus. I don't know. The hell does that mean? Somebody can tell me what that means. So I know there's some Depeche Mode fan out there who's already looked that up. Anyway, it's pretty cool. It looks like, as I look at the vinyl here, it doesn't look like there's a lot of dead wax here. This is something that modern record companies do a lot of. You'll see a lot of space here in the dead wax, which is a really bad sign. Like, you want to see the grooves stretched as far into the center label as you can, because that lets the grooves breathe more, and it lets the needle dive deeper down into them, thus bringing out more sound, more bass, more treble, just a better overall sound. A lot of modern pressings don't do this. You'll see tracks kind of all bunched up, and there'll be a lot of dead wax right here, which is a bad sign. But there's not a lot of dead wax here. It looks like they used the whole side of the record to press the etchings, and that's a good sign. It probably sounds pretty good. Clear actually is the natural state of vinyl. So black vinyl is actually is colored vinyl. Clear is its natural state. So I usually buy records on black or clear if I have an option. That's one of the main reasons I pre-ordered this from Amazon, is it was clear. Anyway, I'm sure it probably sounds good. Looking at this, I would guess the sound quality is probably pretty decent. Here is that from the back side, the dudes, the lads, and then here's the inside. Looks like they have a little tribute to Fletch right there. And again, nothing against Fletch. I don't have anything against Fletch, but let's be honest. The guy had nothing to do with the music. He just stood there touching a keyboard when they played live. That was pretty much his one contribution to the band over the years. And it is what it is. I'm not talking shit about the guy. He was a buddy of the band, and good for him, but let's face it, he had nothing to do creatively with the band. Actually, that reminds me, one of the things when Fletch died last year, I really hoped that they would team up with Alan Wilder again, like maybe bring him back for an album. I thought that would be really cool. Really awesome timing it would have been to bring him back. Fletch is gone. Let's bring Alan back. Maybe let's see what we can do, because Wilder had a huge part of that band during their glory years. I can't remember the name of the biography. There's an excellent biography written about Depeche Mode. Came out about 20 years ago. I can't remember the name of it. It might just be called Depeche Mode, but a big reason why albums like Violator and Songs of Faith and Devotion sounded the way they did were because of Alan Wilder. He was a huge part of the band in the way they sounded then. And yeah, ever since he left, the band just got worse, in my opinion. With the exception of Ultra. Ultra is a great album. I think that is the best non-Wilder album they did. Everything they've done since Ultra has been pretty shaky, in my opinion. There's been one album, Sounds of the Universe, that I would actually give a pretty good review. Ever since Ultra, I think the majority of their albums have been really subpar, with the exception of Sounds of the Universe. I think for whatever reason, they got some renewed invigoration and made a really good album there. Every other album they've put out since then, in my opinion, has been seriously lacking in one way or another, usually in the same ways. but I'll get into that now. Um, okay, so I listened to Memento Mori, I think 3 times. I usually listen to a Depeche Mode album when it comes out at least 2 or 3 times. And quite frankly, and I want to preface this too really quickly by saying I am a huge Depeche Mode fan. Okay. I think that Depeche Mode fans are uniquely qualified to be critical of their work. And I mean fans who go back to the 80s, okay, which I am. I have been a fan of this band for over 35 years. And I will challenge anybody who watches this video to a Depeche Mode knowledge test, okay? Nobody knows more about this band than me. And I know I sound cocky when I say that, but it's true. Nobody knows more about this band. Nobody knows their catalog. No one knows their B-sides. No one knows their remixes and their album tracks better than me, okay? I love this band. They're one of my all-time favorite bands. And it's an easy thing to say now, but I have been with this band for a long time, ever since I was a kid. So when I'm critical of Depeche Mode, it means I love them. I will always love them. They can keep putting out shit albums like this for the rest of their lives, and I still will love them. Their catalog, everything they did basically up through Ultra is brilliant. You can never take that away from them. So I think people who like myself who have stuck with this band thick and thin over the years and paid attention to them and really taken the time to listen to them, we are uniquely qualified to have opinions on this band. That means being critical. And I will say, and this is unequivocally true, that Memento Mori is a piece of shit. This is a bad album. I would argue it is their worst album. The only album that I could say right off the top of my head that is maybe worse than this is Delta Machine, the album that came out a decade ago. But it's close. Excuse me. It is really close. This is a mess of an album, and I will explain why. Number one, and I'm gonna start interspersing my opinions on these reviews that I'm reading of this album, because I think the vast majority of the reviews I've read have been overwhelmingly positive, and I think it is just completely and totally irresponsible for people to be using the terms they're using for this album, like masterpiece and brilliant and amazing. This album hasn't even been out for 2 weeks yet, and people have already decided that it's a masterpiece, which is hilarious to me. I mean, this is so very obviously, arguably their worst album, and yet people are raving about what a masterpiece it is. Masterpiece? Really? So basically, we have what? Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, and Radiohead, OK Computer, and Nirvana, Nevermind, and Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, and Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced, and the Beatles, Abbey Road, and Depeche Mode, Memento Mori as our masterpieces. Let's calm down with the rhetoric here. This is not a masterpiece. I understand Depeche Mode's fans are very, very rabid fans. I'm one of them. But to call this a masterpiece is just outright irresponsible, okay? This is a shitty album. It's lazy. It is not well written. The lyrics are laughably bad. Laughably bad. Dave Gahan, his voice is so shot. Same with Gore. They're old guys. Look, we got to give them a pass, right? They're in their 60s now. But as I listened to this album in my head, when I first listened to it, I was like, "Wow, this is bad." I mean, it sounds like every other song from their last 2 albums, Spirit and Delta Machine. I think they haven't made a single decent album in the last decade. They all the songs kind of run together. They sound very similar. They sound very samey. I actually thought Spirit had a couple of decent ideas on it. They went off on Trump, and Gore kind of went back to some of his more political roots, which he did on Broken Frame and Construction Time Again and People Are People, which I wish he would do again. He's actually a pretty good political writer when he wants to be. But this is a big step back. I'm sorry, Depeche Mode fans, and again, I will challenge anybody who thinks this is a masterpiece. This is a lazy album. Depeche Mode has turned into like an electronic Rolling Stones to me. Like every 4 or 5 years, they they pump out an album. Excuse me, they pump out an album, and then they go on tour. And then 4 or 5 more years goes by, they pump out an album, and then they go on tour. They are a machine now. They're a mechanism. You go and you see them live, and it's basically the greatest hits. They do 2 or 3 new songs from the new album, and then they play Personal Jesus and Enjoy the Silence and Just Can't Get Enough and Everything Counts and Never Let Me Down Again. They do the songs that you know you're going to hear. They sprinkle in a few new songs, and then they go away. It's something that they are now. They're just a machine. They are the Rolling Stones of electronics. And Dave Gunn's turned into a Mick Jagger of electronics. He's out there with his old 60-year-old gut hanging out. He's sticking his ass out. And he's doing his Mick Jagger routine. And it's embarrassing. I'm sorry. It's fucking embarrassing. A friend of mine went and saw them in San Jose a couple weeks ago. And she loved it. She's never seen Depeche Mode live before. So she was super excited to see them, and why not? I mean, especially if you've never seen them before, why not go see them live? I can't do it. I don't, Depeche Mode being such a huge stadium band now takes away a lot of their charm, in my opinion. I can't go see any band live in that sort of environment anymore. It's tough for me to get motivated or inspired to do that. And I've seen Depeche Mode live several times during their peak, like I saw them twice on the Violator tour, for example. So I just don't feel like I need to, that's an itch that I don't need scratched. But they have become a machine now. Pump out the album and go on tour. And it really doesn't matter how good their albums are anymore because they're just a promotional tour or a promotional item for their tours. And that's what this is. It's just, that's all albums are to begin with since the beginning of time, really, is an item, a tool to promote them so you can go see them live where they make their real money. But again, this album is a mess, man. It's bad. And I would love to discuss this with someone who thinks it's a masterpiece. Please, please, let's break this down. Number one, can we please be done with the fucking angel imagery and the stupid pseudo-religious lyrics? What are we, fucking 4 years old? The lyrics on here are awful. In fact, I got the lyrics right here. I remember, I'm going to turn this light on over here. Excuse me, so I can read this. The second song on here called Wagging Tongue. I'm glad the lyrics are sitting here because when I was listening to this in my car the other day, I rolled my eyes so far back in my head, I almost careened off the road and went into a ditch. These lyrics are so fucking bad. Let's see this. Oh, here we go. I won't be offended if I'm left across the great divide. Believe me, they will follow, just to watch another angel die. Watch another angel die. Really? We're talking about angels? Ghosts again? We're still talking about ghosts? uh, you know, Soul with Me, which by the way, oh my God, Soul with Me is awful. This could be the worst Depeche Mode song of all time, and it's a Martin Gore track. And this reminds me too, Martin Gore co-wrote a number of these songs with Richard Butler of the Psychedelic Furs, which how random is that? I don't know. I kind of like the Psychedelic Furs. I mean, who knew Butler was even still around? Um, anyway, he one of the songs on here, Soul with Me, is so fucking bad. I was listening to it, it sounded like a Dionne Warwick track or a Celine Dion song. Like, are we serious? We're calling this brilliant? Really? Anyway, the lyrics are embarrassingly bad. It's like we're in the third grade. We're still singing about ghosts and all this fucking angel imagery and really? We're buying into this? How old are we? how is this? Someone please explain this to me. How is this brilliant? How is this a masterpiece? Lyrics that say, "Watch another angel die. You won't do well to darken me with your secrets and your lies, with your piercing coat of silence. Relax, enjoy the ride." You're seriously going to look me in the eye and say that's a masterpiece? Fuck you. That is not a masterpiece. That is someone taking a dump and printing it on paper. At least they had the balls to print the lyrics. I'd be too embarrassed. Maybe it's because I'm a writer and I actually think of words the way they go together rather than just shitting out a bunch of stupid pseudo religious ideas. I told you I have some passion about this band, and this is just inexcusable, man. And Gore has been doing this for a long time. The angel imagery, playing the angel, another shit album, by the way. I think I would put Playing the Angel as their third worst, below Delta Machine and Memento Mori. That is not a good album. But at least Playing the Angel does have a couple of good songs on it. Like Precious. Precious is a pretty cool song. I'll give that to them. And most of their albums have some pretty good songs, but man, it was tough. It was tough finding one here. In fact, I think the best song on this album is "Speak to Me," which is a Dave track. Dave Gahan wrote that. I think "Speak to Me" is actually a pretty solid song. It's not bad. The rest of this album, embarrassing. Just an embarrassing, sloppy, lazy piece of work. Every song is almost the exact same length, so you get this feeling of like a formula on this album more than any other album they've ever done. It's like 4.5 minutes and out, 4.5 minutes and out, 4.5 minutes and out, over and over again. So there's a definite formula. Each song musically sounds very similar. Um, and I think this is part of my problem with this album is that Depeche Mode became famous because they pushed the boundaries of sound and they had odd lyrics and they towed that line between experimental and big pop greatness. That's something they always did, but they haven't done it in a long time, and I think that's why I'm turned off by this album. Is it's There's nothing cutting edge about it. And listen, they don't have anything to prove at this point. I'm not saying that they do, but that's how these guys got to be popular. They pushed boundaries. There's no boundaries being pushed here. It's very formulaic, top 40-ish style, pseudo electro glam punk goofiness. There's nothing new going on here, and the inane, dumb, immature lyrics only make it worse. And these lyrics are bad. Challenge me on this, okay? I dare you. You're going to lose this challenge. There's nothing interesting about these lyrics. Let me just find a random lyric again here. Here we go. This is from People Are Good, okay? Keep telling myself that people are good. Whisper it under my breath so I don't forget. Keep fooling myself that they do all they can. Sometimes they simply slip up, but it's not what they meant. Heaven help me. Heaven help me. Heaven help us. Again with the heaven. Bad. Okay, I'm not saying that there are a lot of good lyrics out there, but like I'm trying to think of a band out there that doesn't have corny lyrics. I mean, they all do nowadays. It's, you know, the idea that Bob Dylan once existed with his lyrics is almost like an alien thought. Just no one knows how to write lyrics anymore. And Gore is obviously on autopilot with his lyrics. I mean, these are just embarrassing. I'm sorry. Bad lyrics, bad music. That's what this album is. It is really lazy. And again, I think it's just out and out irresponsible for people to be calling this a masterpiece. It's tired, it's old, it's formulaic. There's nothing masterful about this combination. Challenge me on this. I dare you. You're going to lose. And another thing, I'm going to get into my ranty part now. I guess I have been ranting in a way. But, you know, part of why I know reviewers are full of shit is because especially on YouTube, people want to positively review something because they know a new album by a big band like Depeche Mode is going to be loved. It doesn't matter what it is. Martin Gore could record himself taking a shit for an hour and press it on vinyl, and people would still buy it and call it brilliant. It is what it is. People are going to love it. And so reviewers know this, and the key is to get your review out quickly so people will click on it. People want to read about it when it's new. It's new. It's new. It's the latest. It's the newest. It's the hippest. So you see all these reviews pop up, and they know they're going to get more likes if they like something, because obviously people who want to see a review about their favorite band are going to want to see something positive said about it. And so they go to YouTube, and these shithead video makers who want to get likes, because that's what people are obsessed with nowadays. People used to be obsessed with just going out and having experiences, but now they're obsessed with getting likes. They post a phony, fake, shill review, and that's what I've seen a lot of on YouTube. Every fucking thing I've seen except one. There's one dude who had a slightly negative review on it. It wasn't that negative. It was more of a so-so review. I haven't seen one critical review, and this will be the first one that I know of, first honest review, in my opinion, that I know of. Every review has been like, this is a return to form and their best album since Violator. Really? Cut the bullshit, okay? It is not their best album since Violator. And that reminds me, you know, Violator did not get well reviewed when it came out. We all know it to be one of the great albums of our time, one of the best albums ever made. We know that. Us Depeche Mode fans at the time knew that. But these publications at the time, like Rolling Stone, I'm going to pick out Rolling Stone because they just suck, and we know they suck, and they're generically bad, and we know that. At the time, Rolling Stone gave that album 2.5 stars. And I know this because I keep all my music magazines from the past. 2.5 stars. Their retrospective review, they gave 4.5 to Violator, and that's what these publications love to do. They love to give out retrospective reviews, but they conveniently forget about what they gave it when it first came out, and that is important. When reviewing an album, you want to go back and see what people thought at the time. A retrospective review is just a lazy thing to do. You're not being honest with yourself. You're not being intellectually honest by telling us what you now think of the album, because we all know Violator broke ground. Well, us Depeche fans knew that at the time. Nobody else did, though. Rolling Stone gave it 2.5 stars. Here's another example. Nirvana, Nevermind. Rolling Stone gave that 3 stars out of 5. 3 out of 5. Now they give it 100 stars out of 5, because they know if they didn't give it 5 out of 5, that they would be seen as a clueless publication. And that's what I don't like about reviews, and that's how we know these reviewers are full of shit. Okay? People are giving Memento Mori, and this is my point I want to make. People are giving Memento Mori a high review because they know that's what they have to do to sell records. And that's why I know a lot of these must be shill reviews. Because, listen, this is not a good album, okay? Sometimes not sometimes, all the time, when you're a professional reviewer, which I am, I've written for publications in the past, you have to be an objective reviewer. Even if you love the band, you have to be an objective reviewer, and that is a skill. You have to put your fandom on the shelf and understand that you have to hear this album as an objective person, as an objective listen. You have to do that. Otherwise, everything you say, all of your reviews are viable to be shill reviews. You're taking that risk. Your reviews are no longer valid if you're just, being a fan, if you're being a fanboy or a fangirl. Your reviews mean nothing. You have to listen to an album objectively. And that's what I do. And that's why I know that this album is not good. And again, I've said it 3 or 4 times already. Anybody who wants to challenge me on this, those of you who think this is a masterpiece, bring it on. You're going to lose that argument. This is not a masterpiece. Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, is a masterpiece. Can, Tago Mago, a masterpiece. Depeche Mode, Violator, a masterpiece. This is not a masterpiece. You cannot compare this to the Beatles' Abbey Road, okay? Stop it. And that is part of being objective. If you don't understand the difference, you're not an objective reviewer, and you need to just shut up and stop reviewing things. Another thing I just, it drives me nuts with reviews on YouTube are these reaction videos. I was thinking about I was thinking about linking a couple of these reviews where people are having reactions. Like these guys sit there with their headphones on and they're literally listening to the album. You can hear the album in the background. I know you guys have seen these, but they're sitting there and they're listening to the album like this. Do you know anybody who listens to records like this? No, I didn't think you did. None of us do. Another proof positive that these reviewers are full of shit. They don't know what they're doing. It's all about them. You should be talking about the record. It's not all about you, okay? And watching these people with their fake response, all this fakery, and people watching it, being entertained by it, it drives me nuts. I highly recommend you go look for this review. Some dude reviewed Memento Mori, and he's got a baseball cap on backwards. He's got a wife beater. He's chubby. He's got a stubble. He's probably spent his whole life trying to grow this goatee stubble, and he's sitting there listening, rocking back and forth like an invalid, listening to Memento Mori like this, like he's taking a shit or something. At least hire a hot chick to sit there with her boobs out listening to this album. Instead, we're looking at some fat, doughy dickhead with a fucking wife beater on. At least have the common decency to put someone decent looking in your video if we have to watch this. Who is watching this, by the way? Who the fuck wants to sit there and watch this guy? Do people think this is real, a real spontaneous reaction to music? Who listens to music this way? Nobody. Nobody. So listen, I understand people are stupid. People are the most idiotic they've ever been in history. I get it. But that doesn't prevent me from wanting to rant about it. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm sorry. And I know this video has gone on for like 40 minutes now. But it's Depeche Mode. I have a lot to say. And watching these fake shill reviews has burned my ass this past week. And apart from YouTube though, you go to Metacritic and you go to these websites like the Quietus and NME, who by the way hated Depeche Mode, always hated Depeche Mode. Now all of a sudden they think they're brilliant. I don't know how that happens. But every review you see is 85% and above. I mean, this is like the greatest thing that people have heard. And listen, I understand it's an opinion. I know that. You know, for me to go off on people's opinions might seem like a low blow, but I guess the ultimate point I'm making is I don't buy it. I don't buy these positive reviews. As an objective listener, you know that this is not a good album. So when you know that as an objective listener, you have to consider shill reviews, fakery, people who don't know this band, or mega fans of the band who will love anything these guys do. I haven't seen any objective reviews of this. And again, I'm a huge fan of this band. There's nothing in it for me to hate on this album. It's just not a good album. It just isn't. So to see all this overwhelming and almost unprecedented positivity toward an album that clearly sucks is got to raise some red flags. Maybe it's just, people needed to hear a big album. Maybe we're at a time now where there's just no other band like this putting out an album. I don't know. Maybe people are just desperate for this kind of sound. Maybe that's possible. I guess it's viable, but I don't buy it. I don't understand how people could be so lukewarm about Delta Machine and Spirit and so excited about this because they don't sound different. And quite frankly, nothing Depeche Mode has done since playing the Angel has sounded very different from each other. Again, I will say Sounds of the Universe is the one exception. I do like Sounds of the Universe. That's a good album. Exciter is a very hit and miss affair for me. And listen, I love Mark Bell. Mark Bell is one of my all-time favorite electronic producers. Um, LFO Advance is one of my favorite all-time albums, electronic or otherwise. So the fact they brought in Mark Bell to work on that album is a great thing, but I still don't think it's a great album. It's weird. You wouldn't think that with Mark Bell. Usually everything he touched was gold. Not on Exciter though. It's a very hit and miss album. So, um, I was talking to a friend of mine about this earlier in the week, and he's a huge Depeche Mode fan, one of the biggest, just like me. And he also he had the same reaction to Memento Mori as me. He knew he was starting to read the reviews too. I was directing him to some of these positive reviews. He was like, "What? Like, what's going? How are these guys hearing the album?" We both were kind of commiserating over this experience, and he put it in a really good way. He said there seems to be a collective hypnosis right now with this album, and that's the best way to put it. He put it in a way that I couldn't have put it. Collective hypnosis, and it's true. Again, that's an opinion, but I feel like I hope someone can explain this to me in a way that makes sense because there is a collective hypnosis over this album right now. I can't remember a time where an album was so blatantly mediocre and so blatantly lazy where everyone is really loving it. It's weird. I don't know if it's post-COVID blues. I don't know if people are so starved for a Depeche Mode album right now. I don't know. If people are just overly emotional about Fletch dying, maybe. But this album is just so clearly not good that it does raise these questions. Like, I would love to know where all this positivity is coming from. But again, check out the reviews. Try to go to the reaction videos. They're really hilarious to watch. They're maddening at the same time. I just want to punch my monitor when I watch these videos. They're so bad. Watching these people have these fake, spontaneous reactions to music. It is really funny to watch because we all know nobody listens to music like this. No, we know that doesn't happen. So I urge you to go and find a video like this and watch as much as you can and see how annoyed you get. It would be interesting to hear people's comments. And listen, if you disagree with me, let me know. I know I've made a few Depeche Mode videos already, and I know a lot of the people who watch my videos are Depeche Mode fans. Um, I'm really eager to hear some more objective reviews of this album, though, because yeah, to see words like masterpiece and like, um, someone said that maybe it was the quietest, that they said that Gore and Gone have found new inspiration. It's like, really? Have they found new inspiration to just go on tour, or have they found new inspiration in their songwriting? I'd like to know the difference there because, listen, I've heard every Depeche Mode song they've ever made, B-side and otherwise, over and over again in my life, and this by far is their worst album. Maybe Delta Machine is right there with it, but this is not a good album, and I have no desire to ever hear it again. Um, I Memento Mori basically means it's basically a reminder of death. And I have to say, if in my final moments, when I know I'm dying, I hope to fuck I'm not listening to Memento Mori because that would be a really sad end. That would be a very depressing way to go. This is not the album I want to be hearing when I'm dying because damn. Anyway, you know what? That seems like a good place to cut it. So, uh, those of you who disagree with me, bring it on. I will love this debate. And if you agree with me, that would be cool. Either way, I love having a good debate. about Depeche Mode because they are one of the great bands of all time. They've just finally made an album that I can't listen to. I didn't think it would ever happen. I thought Delta Machine was borderline unlistenable, but I over time I found some things to like about it. Maybe I'll feel the same about Memento Mori, but I doubt it. This album's a mess, and it's a piece of shit. And bring it on if you disagree with me. Thanks for listening, and until next time, goodbye.